I started this channel with Metal Gear Solid 5, and every single day, or every single couple videos, I genuinely start to believe that, oh, I guess there's nothing more I can talk about with this game. I guess, after almost 5 years of making content centering around mainly Metal Gear, and mainly Metal Gear Solid 5 in the grand scheme of things, that, I'd exhaust every possible thing to talk about. But then I'm proven wrong. So, I was recently going through YouTube and I saw this video posted by this guy here playing through a mod of a, modded mission in Phantom Pain. And, I never really think much of Phantom Pain mods because it's usually like, oh, you get to play as Big Boss now, or oh, the thermal goggles are a different color. But I actually started watching this and I saw a reinvigorated Camp Omega. I saw helicopters being used in there. I saw Phantom Pain levels of AI interaction. And I saw custom lines for interrogations when you're talking to the guards. And I was like, wow, somebody's actually cooking with this. Then as I continued to watch, there was a point where Snake had to go into the basement of Camp Omega to extract this tape, but the door was locked behind a puzzle. And I was like, whoa, what? Now, any of you guys who have been around for a long time know I love the puzzle elements of Metal Gear Solid and think it needs more of them. The Nikita puzzles, especially in Metal Gear Solid 2 and with its VR missions, are some of the most fun I've had with the series. So to see an actual door-based puzzle, a la Resident Evil in Metal Gear, was really cool, but it gets even cooler. You see, in this mod, the only way to really solve this puzzle is to head back out, interrogate a guy who tells you the commander's going to be coming to base and he knows the passcode. Then you have to wait around for the commander to come in, you have to go, you either have to watch him do it or extract him, and that's the way you find a password to open the door. This is really fucking cool that someone made this. Not only did they make a spiced up version of Camp Omega with features only in the Phantom Pain, but they were able to create a wholly unique experience using assets that were already in the game to create gameplay unlike anything we've played in Ground Zeroes or Phantom Pain. This got me thinking. I've talked before about how Metal Gear could use a map creator. I've talked about, using the VR mode setup to do it. I've talked about just allowing us to do something more free. But maybe the answer isn't a map creator for Metal Gear Solid in order for it to be infinitely replayable. Maybe just allowing us to tweak little missions like this and create our own setups is enough to keep a Metal Gear game infinitely replayable. So I'm Pliskin, and today I guess we're kind of talking about a form of map creator because we are messing around with assets and creating unique, situations like this mod. But today I really want to talk about mode editing being implemented into mainline Metal Gear Solid games to add to the game's replayability and user input. If there's one thing Metal Gear Solid 5 really boasted during its advertising campaign, it was the ability to replay the same missions differently, to inhabit the same spaces but never have the same experience twice. I mean, do you guys remember that one 2014 demo where they showed off, the players going through a similar mission where they have to go find some intel and extract cause? However, it played completely different and they showed off some of the vehicles, the differences in spawning, and that kind of stuff. This was one of the few trailers for Phantom Pain that didn't really lie about cool features that it was actually going to have. And I bring this up because this goes to show that the idea of replayability is core to Metal Gear Solid 5's identity. The idea of reworking AI, map layouts, and objective points is already a part of the game. And while PC players are clearly taking advantage of this, I want to talk about more of how this could work on console. Now, when we're talking about any kind of map or mission creator, I am of course going to bring up Far Cry 4. Even though Halo Infinite now allows me to put in AI and do all this kind of stuff, it doesn't change the fact that the game is massive, that it's super complicated to try to set up that AI, and the fact that I have to stay online when playing. Like, okay, it's cool everything going on with Infinite, but Far Cry 4 is still the best map and mode creator I have ever experienced. I can create the terrain, I can set up the structures and the environment. I can set up the AI without having to know programming. I can create wholly unique experiences right out of my imagination, with the only limitations being the assets that have to be present from the game. I can't just, make Far Cry 4 Soldier and Elite from Halo 1. But yeah, Far Cry 4 is a perfect example of implementing a crazy map creator mode without having to be a massive, overcomplicated mess to get into. Anyone can edit a Far Cry 4 map. Now with Metal Gear Solid 5, I understand that the engine might not be well suited to, the type of ground manipulation and environmental shaping of Far Cry 4. However, the idea of swapping out certain key mission assets, switching around AI and how they work, introducing some enemies, taking out some enemies, the music, the weather, the day and night cycle, the loadout, that's all stuff that Metal Gear Solid 5 already has available to edit, whether we have control of it or, the actual developers have control over how that changes. The fact that those things can be changed are already in the game. Now, I don't expect us to be able to just edit a map in something as big as the open worlds, but a map the size of Camp Omega, or one of the multiple multiplayer maps which have already reworked certain areas from the campaign into smaller, more condensed, and feasible environments to edit and play around in. The multiplayer also features customization of things like the soundtrack. The game itself, with its FOB missions, allows us to, edit what kind of traps, what kind of troops are there, what do we have to deal with when infiltrating a base, what are these guys armed with, which platforms are more defended than others. So there's already an element in the game of being able to edit AI yourself and how they're going to be approached by a player. Then of course editing something like the loadout or the weather or the day and night cycle, those are all things right in the base game. I can choose what snake goes into the world with. I can use the phantom cigar to change time, and you have certain drops and bombardments that can make rain or, sandstorms and do weather control. So these are all features that are in the game. The only thing in this mod that isn't really in the game already that we have control over is this really cool puzzle setup, but I believe this would be really easy to implement.
Someone's in the outhouse. Some soldier with stomach trouble? I think he's gonna be a while. Better leave him alone.
In Far Cry 4, when I want to spawn in an enemy or, an alarm switch that you can interact with or any kind of interactable thing, it's as easy as going into the map editor and placing it down. It already has a set amount of animations, AI behaviors, and things it can do. The game really takes the reins once it gets started, but the basic placement of things is what you have control over, and this allows for a lot of creativity. For example, in Far Cry 4, I can control the pacing of where the AI and the players need to congregate by placing certain alarm systems, certain ladders, certain traversal routes, and certain points of interest all close together. So even though I can't program the AI like in fucking Halo Infinite, I still have a good amount of control by knowing the game. I know that if I place these 3 guys in this guard tower and I place an alarm there, not only are the enemies going to have to be up there, but the player is eventually going to have to make their way too. Therefore, I am shaping the experience. So being able to do this with Metal Gear Solid 5, being able to set up beds, watchtowers, searchlights, motor systems, or, other control panels, prisoners, different things that I know the enemy is going to interact with, and different things I know the player is going to notice, I could also shape the experiences this way. Those switches that are used in the puzzle are the switches that are modeled after that one switch in Pitch Dark that you use to turn off the oily water separator tank. Being able to place interactables like this into the environment would be pretty simple, because all you really do is press triangle. And in regards to what this does, it's very easy to kind of put something in that's linked to something else. For example, again, let's go back to Far Cry 4. If I go up to an alarm and I turn it off, that means AI can't go to this thing and turn it on and call for reinforcements. So in Metal Gear Solid 5, it could be something as simplistic and as consistent as if I press this button, this other thing that I can place down opens something or turns on. So for example, let's use this mod in this puzzle again. If I press this button, this door opens. Now adding a certain button sequence for a puzzle might be a little bit more complicated, but this is all hypothetical, so we can push it a little bit. Add in these things, make it so that, there's a certain order you need to go through to open certain doors, or if I press this, an alarm turns off, or if I press this, the power goes down. You have power generators that work like that. You could set up a puzzle where you have a power generator somewhere and there's a door that only opens when there's no power, so you have to go turn it off. That might be easier and more feasible. And even if it's something that really needs to be added in there, even if this is something that, the developers or the engine would need work on in order to facilitate this, the idea of using those multiplayer maps online, or a map the size of Ground Zero, something smaller and easier to control, would make all this stuff more feasible. Again, I'm not saying, oh yeah, this mode editor should work in the open world. No, I'm talking about giving the player a small, curated space that they can do little edits to shape the experience. So, for example, let's talk about a hypothetical mission that I would put together. Let's use the multiplayer map in the desert that reworks Yako Oblo command center or supply outpost and turns it into this multiplayer arena map. Let's say I take this and I make a map where I want you to rescue a prisoner that's right in the center of the base. And I surround the walls with searchlights, so the AI will go and use these searchlights, keeping the majority of them up on the wall. Then in the middle areas or on the outside areas, I'll put little, fire things. You always find those trash cans with fire. Metal Gear Solid 5's AI tends to go towards those. It also makes it easier to see the guards. And then on the inside of the base, let's say I put a couple searchlights facing inwards, so the map becomes about me utilizing light and dark to get to this prisoner. I have to avoid these trash cans on fire so the enemies don't see me and I don't come into contact with them. I have to avoid the plethora of searchlights on the outside of the base to make my way inside. And then when I'm in there, I need to time my approach to the prisoner to, avoid those searchlights facing inwards, a la Metal Gear Solid 1 or Ground Zeroes.
On your man, homie. I tried to peek through the door, man. Can't make it. The shit's stuck. Out of my way, son! Door's stuck! Door's stuck!
So there you have it. It's nowhere near as complicated as this PC modded mission here. However, with just being able to place a couple searchlights in trash cans, I've curated a unique infiltration experience. This doesn't need to be difficult. And modes like this also allow for players to just dig around. Imagine a mode where you just spawn into a small area and there's 100 sheep running around and they're constantly knocking you over, and you need to time your attacks to knock them out by hand one by one and exfiltrate them all the way back to base. Do you remember during Metal Gear Solid 5's marketing campaign how much of an emphasis the sheep had? They honestly had me believing that I would be able to fill up Mother Base with just sheep wandering around all the time. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted a Mother Base full of sheep. It would have been just fucking amazing. But yeah, anyways, that's enough about dreaming about what Metal Gear Solid 5 could have been. I don't like doing that as much as I used to, but when I saw this PC mod, it just made me think about map creators, and I just wanted to talk about how potentially this could work. What do you guys think? Do you think this is something that could feasibly work within Metal Gear Solid 5's engine? If any of you guys work on the technical side of games development, or just know more about this than I do, please let me know down in the comments below. I think talking about this as a possibility is definitely much more relevant now that we're probably going to get Metal Gear Solid 5 in the Master Collection Part 2. And I did see this tweet from David Hayter saying he finally played the game, and his one complaint was that Snake doesn't talk so much. Couple this together with all the times where he's saying, oh, we're just getting started, and now that Konami's back and using him, and we know another version of Metal Gear Solid 5 is on the way with the Master Collection, and maybe we're getting a reworked Metal Gear Solid 5 where David Hayter voices Snake and they add in a whole bunch of new features. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but yeah. All these things combined made me want to make this video. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. This has been Pliskin. Over and out.
This is Solid Snake. Hey, subscribe to Pliskin Boy. God damn it.
You heard him.